Good morning and welcome all. Today is Springadagur in Iceland. It is the one of three special days prior to Lent, and it's also referred to as Bursting Day. Main meal on the traditional menu today is yellow split pea and salted lamb and veggie soup. So I understand from Gudrun, our speaker here, that apparently some people actually do get so full of it, they have to go to the emergency room for treatment. That doesn't sound very fun. Anyway, again, welcome. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Icelandic Roots, this is a nonprofit organization to promote and preserve the Icelandic heritage, culture, and genealogy. And we have just celebrated our 8th anniversary within the last year. And to learn more, we encourage you to visit our website at icelandicroots.com, as well as on Facebook and Instagram. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available within about a week or so on the Icelandic Roots YouTube channel. Since it's being held in the webinar format, as you saw on the welcome screen, everyone is muted. The only people that are visible and can be heard are the three of us, which includes Gudrun Bjarnadottir, our presenter, Doug Hansen, who is an Icelandic Roots volunteer out of Virginia, and myself, Jody Armand-Jones, and I'm an Icelandic Roots volunteer in Minnesota. If you would like to interact, and we certainly do encourage you to do that, please go to probably the bottom of your screen with your cursor, and you will find a Q&A button. And that is where you can type in your questions, comments, concerns, and we'll try to address those as we go along. And without further ado, I am very pleased to introduce you to Gudrun Bjarnadottir, who is a most amazing woman. She has a very wide variety of interests and has done many things in her life. She is an instructor at the university in, I'm not even going to try to say it because I never say it right, Agricultural University of Iceland, where she teaches botany. She's a published author several times over. She is an expert in analyzing sperm for the Icelandic Bull Center. She volunteers with the American Red Cross in Western Africa. And she's an entrepreneur, as she will be showing us today. She is located at her workshop museum near Selfoss, Iceland. And without further ado, we're going to find out lots of things about using natural plants and methods of dyeing traditional wool. So Gudrun, we're going to let you take over.
Okay, thank you. Well, welcome to my studio. My name is Gudrun. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I'm doing here. I did not put the cat here. He is very attention seeking, so he knows where the attention point is. I'm coloring wool with plants like we did in the old days. Before I start telling you about the actual coloring process, I'm going to tell you about how this all started, how I lost control of my hobby, as you can see behind me. So this became my main source of income and living. Teaching at the Agricultural University is just an extra job, has been for years. I love teaching there, but this is the first year I'm not teaching. I feel very sad about that, but I'm trying to do this full time. It's the Agricultural University of Iceland in Hvanneyri. Yeah, pronounce that. So I started coloring, when I was writing my master's thesis many years ago, I was writing about how we used the plants in the old days. It's ethnobotany. So I was comparing it to Norway and the British Isles, how we used the plants. If we were using them the same way in a new place when we came as settlers to Iceland, or if it was knowledge that we figured out in a new place. The main difference is that we have so few plants in Iceland. That is our problem. We only have 500 plants. In Norway, we came as settlers from Norway and the British Isles, and they have 1,300 in Norway. They have 6,000 in the British Isles. So they have all the options of getting more colors. So we only have limited number of colors. So according to our tradition, I have been importing plants for red and blue because those colors we just cannot get in Iceland. We can get red, but not very good red. So, well, when I was writing my master's thesis about how we use the plants, I found information about coloring with plants. I thought that was so interesting. So I started experimenting and, well, completely lost control of my hobby. I was going to knit from all the yarn myself, but somehow I didn't find time to do that because I was always coloring more. So I needed to get rid of the yarn to have space for more colored yarn, to color more. So I went to this farmer's market, this local market. I sold the yarn. And well, what happened after that was that people started calling me at home, asking if they could look into my, come visit my home, look into my dye pots and get information about the coloring tradition. So, well, before I knew it, I was receiving busloads of people in my kitchen and, well, selling them the yarn in the living room. So that couldn't go on forever. So I moved outside of the Hvanneyri village and I bought a house with a garage so I could have the studio separated from my home. So the studio was in my garage. So that went fine for a few years. That worked well for a few years, but of course quickly became too small, the studio. And also not, well, it was tough to find me. It was in a beautiful location, but too many turns, too far away from the main road and not much winter tourists. So I decided to move to the south. So I came to, 2019, I bought this small farm here. It's close to Selfoss in the south, and it's a very short way from the Golden Circle. It's about 2 kilometers from where you turn into the Golden Circle. So here we have all year-round tourists and also a bigger studio. I needed a bigger studio. So in this bigger studio, I moved here 2019 in autumn, and I sort of renovated the house until January when I finished teaching and opened up the studio, well, end of February 2020. And we all know what happened then. COVID sort of closed down Iceland and all the world. So the first year was quite tough. Second year better, and I'm looking forward to my third summer, which will hopefully be better than the last two. But this new place is much better than my old place because, well, it is 10 times bigger, the studio. I don't know if you can see how big it is. It is quite big. So in this big studio, I can receive larger groups and I can do more education. I can educate more. And that is what the studio is all about. It's receiving guests, telling them about the old tradition, how we use the plants and how we colored with the plants, and teaching them how to respect nature. It's okay to use nature if we do it carefully and respectfully. So that is what the studio is all about. You come here to get some information about old times and how we use the plants. So in a bigger studio, I can get bigger. I can receive bigger groups. The biggest group I have received here is 90 people, and it went so well, space for everyone. And I have, now I have more space for the yarn that I'm selling, for my product that I'm selling. And in the back there, you see a lot of old stuff on the wall. That is my mini museum. Old stuff connected to handcraft, connected to old times. And that's the mini museum. And there's a seating area there where I can have knitting clubs and also educational talks, because there's the big flat screen TV. I'm going to move the camera and see if we can see that better. So there you see the flat screen TV. It's big, and I can give a talk for about 50 people in comfortable chairs. And here I have my library with a lot of old books, usually connected to nature, and all more of my products that I'm selling. And here is the main entrance here. And I think you can see my dog there. That is Tryggur. He's looking out for visitors. And here is my kitchen, all the dye pots. And this is actually my kitchen because I live here. This is my home and studio. And also here is my office. I think you can see it over there. So I combined my home and studio, so now I can work 24 hours a day, always. Yeah, when you're your own boss in your own home, you have the freedom to work 24 hours a day, always. And I love it. Everything in here should be educational. You're supposed to learn something about old times. I published this book 2018. It's about how we used the plants in the old days and the folklore, the fun stuff. This is from my master's thesis, but here we have the fun stuff, the folklore that wasn't allowed in the master's thesis. It wasn't scientific enough. Here we have about 30 or 40, well, 38 plants. And of course, the book is in Icelandic here. Then in COVID times, everyone stayed home knitting and doing jigsaw puzzles, doing puzzles. So I decided to make, well, since there were no guests coming here, I needed to generate an income somehow. So an old dream of mine was to make a jigsaw puzzle from a picture of my yarn. So here is a picture of all the colors I make, and it's a 1,000-piece jigsaw. It's big, it's the real thing. And educational, of course, because you can see on the back what color is made from each plant, what plant makes what color. Educational. And a booklet about the coloring tradition in Iceland. Also, last year, I made the Flora card game, this one here. It's a deck of cards. This one is in English. I have it in Icelandic and Polish as well, and it's to play Go Fish with plants. So now we're working with plants instead of traditional cards, and of course information about the plants. So these are sort of my side products, products that sort of help me make a living from working with handcraft, because working with handcraft is very time consuming. I also have the Flora card game as a memory game for smaller children. So, well, my education, the reason why I can do this coloring and this education, educating people about this, is because I have many years of education. This is not something I just Googled one weekend or watched a YouTube video. Actually, I used to be a television producer, broadcasting producer. I used to work for Channel 1 in the news as an assistant, and then as a broadcasting producer for the Channel 2 television station. They're broadcasting the main evening news for 5 years and the morning television. A lot of fun, just a little bit too much excitement for me. I didn't enjoy it anymore, so I decided to go to school. And I went to Denver, Colorado, to study to be a veterinarian technician. And then I went to the Agricultural University and I got a degree in agriculture, bachelor's degree. My master's degree is in nature and the ethnobotany, how we used the plants in the old days. After that, I took a degree in teaching because I love educating, I love teaching people. And I am actually studying planning right now, but I don't think I will be able to continue that. I assume it will be quite busy this year, so I don't think I can continue that, maybe later. And I get a lot of groups here in the summer and also a lot in the autumn. I get knitting groups, Icelandic, English speaking, and of course, American groups. I do get a lot of American groups. I have a contract with a travel agency in Boston that brings me this year 140 groups of American guests. These are groups of Americans over 50, always 16 together in each group. So beginning of May, 8 o'clock in the morning, they'll be here for a short talk over the dye pots to show them how the coloring process is, and then they just look around and get educated about Icelandic nature. It's a lot of fun and a lot of groups, 140. I also get school children here, and I get, well, all kinds of groups. So, yep, this is my home now, as I told you, and this used to be a chicken coop. There used to be hundreds of chicken running about here, but that's been 15 years, so it was very clean when I bought it. Now I'm going to tell you about the coloring tradition in Iceland, the history of color in Iceland. So very traditional in our coloring history is to color this brown color here. It's colored with a lichen that is called coloring lichen, litunarskóf, this one here. It is very traditional because we used it in Norway before we came to Iceland, so as settlers. So we recognized it here. We came here, we recognized it, we could use it in the same way. I often say this is like the Viking era color. It was not the color of the Vikings because they were the rich people, they were wearing blue. But it was the color of the Viking era. The common people were using this. You can also read about it in the Icelandic sagas that people were picking what they called brown grass. They didn't know the difference between lichen, moss, or grass, so it was just called grass, brown grass, because it gives a brown color. And you see the stripes in the yarn. It's variegated, it's uneven. In the old days, I would have been fired for this. Not good. Not good. It was supposed to be very solid. But today, that's what the knitters want to see. They want to see the movement in the color, the variegated yarn. This actually takes a few days to get perfect. If I go too fast, it gets dark and it stops glowing. Coloring with plants is sort of part of the slow movement, you know, slow food, fast food. This is slow coloring. You need a lot of patience, a few days. Each dye pot takes a few days. A lot of tolerance. This one can take up to 5 to 6 days to be perfect. Yellow is the easiest color to get from nature. Everything green gives yellow. You can take the leaves of the trees, the grass, anything green will give you yellow. I have here a lot of lupin leaves. I think you can see it here. These are dried leaves from last autumn. In the old days, we used birch, willow, meadowsweet, rumex species like rhubarb when that was imported, northern dock. These plants, we know today why they were better than others for coloring is because they have acids. Everything acidic makes the color strong, hold on. Everything alkaline changes the color. So coloring with plants is just simple chemistry. Acidic makes the color strong, alkaline changes the color. So the plants we were using in the old days had acids in them, so they automatically gave a strong, long-lasting color. So I use those species as we did before, but I like using the lupin because we have so much of it. I'm always telling people to respect nature, never take too much. That does not apply to the lupin. We have enough. We imported it for land reclamation to bind the sand, the soil, and make the soil more fertile. It binds nitrogen with the roots, so it's good for the soil. But we sort of lost control of it. It's invasive, so it's everywhere. People in Iceland either hate the lupin or love it. But I love it because, well, I know it's doing a good job with the soil and it gives me a very good yellow, and I can take the plant as much as I want. Nobody cares if I take too much. It's okay to use nature if you do it carefully and respectfully, but that rule sort of doesn't apply to the lupin. So I can boil the leaves for at least 2 days in a row, filter them out, put the yarn in, and I get this beautiful yellow color. And this is the color I make the most. I'm always making yellow. Yellow is not a very popular color, but green is. So I can change yellow into green. So I take something green to make yellow to make green. If I get green straight from nature, that is not good. That color will fade. You always have to take yellow to make green. That will give a stronger, more long-lasting green. So to change this into green, I can take copper sulfate powder and household cleaning ammonia. This is similar to old urine. It's alkaline. I get this green here from the lupin yellow. So this is the modern way. The ammonia I use instead of urine. Bad smell, but still not as bad as the urine. And I actually don't use the copper sulfate so much because we tend to overuse it when it's powdered. That is not good. So I use a copper wire. So that is more like we did in the old days. Then we used copper pots to get the copper effect and urine. But I still stay away from the urine. I also have another way of getting green. That is to put the yellow in blue. And then I get green. I'll tell you about blue later. Red is, it's a tough color to get. It's not very common. And, well, colors are class divided. Not anyone in the old days was allowed to wear any color. Purple was the most expensive color in the world. It came from snails in the Mediterranean, 1 milligram per snail. So you needed a lot of snails to get purple. And you used the fermentation process with urine, bad smell, a lot of urine, many weeks of bad smell. And it didn't even last long. That was the most expensive color in the world, so the church got the purple, purple for the Pope. And blue was the color of the kings. Blue is not impossible, but it's not everywhere. So that was the color of the kings and the Vikings. Red was for the rich people. Green was for the upper class, and the rest of the colors for the rest of the people. So surprisingly, there are 2 ways of getting red from Icelandic nature. Neither of them are good. We use the root of a madder species. This used to be, of course, green with a yellow flower. I don't know if you can see the root. It actually fell off, but it's very, very small. Very, very small. So you needed a lot of root to get a lot of red. And we used it for sewing yarn, something very special. We didn't use it for a full garment. It was a lot of work to pick the roots, and you actually have to wait 2 or 3 years while it matures to give the perfect color. So we were probably quite happy when 300 years ago we started importing a foreign root that's related to this one. It's called common madder or dyer's madder, and this one gives a good red. Related species, just bigger and better. And that's this red here, beautiful red. So our tradition of getting red for the last 300 years is to import the madder root. We had another way of getting red, and that was to use the Icelandic moss, which is botanically not a moss. I cannot call it moss since I teach or taught botany, because moss and lichen are not the same. This is a lichen. It's called fjallagrös in Icelandic, and this is very, very important to us because we used to eat this. This kept us alive through the dark Middle Ages. It has minerals, proteins, carbohydrates, energy, and it's antibacterial. It's good for sick people. It's good for the respiratory system. I'm pretty sure this will cure COVID. This is our secret weapon. the Iceland moss. This kept us alive because, well, we couldn't grow barley for a few hundred years. We needed carbohydrates. We got it from this. Very important. So to color red with this, you color a beige color, very simple color. And to change that one in red, you need a lot of old urine from cows. My recipe said from cows specifically. And well, you would think it would be easy to collect. When I was experimenting, I needed to collect the cow urine. They pee a lot. But, well, I showed up at the agricultural university where they keep their cows. And I had my buckets and they ran away. It didn't go so well. It was a free-range area, the modern version of where the cows live. They just ran away. So it didn't go so well. It went better in the old days because you lived close to the animals. We needed the heat from them. And we were constantly collecting because you used urine a lot for the household. And the cows were, of course, tied to the stables. But I ended up advertising in the farmer's paper for urine. And I got in touch with children on nearby farms where the cows were still tied to the stables, so they collected for me and they sold me the urine. For the same price as the farmer was getting for the milk. It was a lot of fun. The kids knew the trick, how to trick the cows into peeing. You know how you can tickle them in certain places and they pee. They worked in teams. One did the tickling and the other had the bucket. We had fun. So I got all the urine I needed. I needed 150 liters. That is about 40 gallons, I think. It's a lot. So I colored the beige simple color, put the yarn in a bucket of old urine, 3 weeks old, and I shake it around every day, and then I replace the urine every day or every second day. This has to go on for weeks, and this is the reason why I need so much urine for this. Bad smell all the time. I did get red from this. It just wasn't a nice color. Like the old tradition said, old stories say, old descriptions say, not a nice color, faded quickly, smelled bad. I actually have it here. This is the center color here in the middle. It is salmon pink today. It is definitely not red anymore. Took 2 years, it faded. Same time the smell left. I was trying to wear it while giving talks like this, but couldn't breathe. The smell was so bad. So we were probably quite happy when we started importing the common matter. And urine was collected for the household. It was very important. We used it for cleaning the wool, getting a shine in our hair. We used it for tanning the skins. It was just good chemistry in urine. Blue is the color, this is the red I get the first time I use the root, and then third or fourth time I get a lighter color. So I can use it a few times for different shades. Blue is the color of the kings and the rich people and the Vikings. If you read the Icelandic Viking sagas, all the Vikings are dressed in blue. But they were the rich guys. They traveled abroad, bought their clothes and came back. Foreign natural colors, not Icelandic. Beautiful color, they're called colored cloth, litklæði. So that blue was from a plant called woad. For a plant to give blue, 40 plants in the world can give blue. They all have to have the color particle indigo in them. It's different coloring from taking the leaves, putting it in the dye pot, boiling for 2 days. It's a little bit more complicated process. So the plant has to have this indigo tin particle in it, and there's a lot of work to get that out. I'm not going to go into that. So woad grows in Europe and Norway. So that was the traditional blue at that time. So Icelandic Vikings were colorful until the end of the 13th century. We sort of entered the dark Middle Ages. Because it became colder here, we stopped going back and forth to Norway to buy our clothes. We stayed home. We lost the ability to build ships. We just sort of entered bad cold times, eruptions, earthquakes, and so on. And it's called the era of no color, dark Middle Ages, because we were all wearing black. We managed to make very good black from the leaves of bearberry. And well, I have the leaves here. Don't know if you can see them. Evergreen little shrub. We also used it to make ink to write with. We managed to make very good black, and everyone was wearing black, and it looked like the whole nation was constantly going to a funeral, or in mourning, or at least depressed. These were just not good times. But we became colorful again in the 18th century when we started importing indigo powder. So this is the indigo tin color particle. And this is from the plant indigo, the indigo plant from India. It came to Europe in the Middle Ages. It has more of the color in it than woad, so it became the preferred source of blue, and still is best source of blue from nature, I think. Different coloring procedure. You need to sort of cook up a recipe, and you need to take the oxygen out of the water. And in the old days, it took many, many days and weeks with fermentation and urine to get the oxygen out. I don't have to do that. I go the modern way. I have this white powder that I dump in the water. The oxygen leaves the water. So I have yellowish water. I see no blue. And now it's a matter of time. I only have about an hour to get the color out before the oxygen gets in and deactivates the dye bath. So I take white yarn, put it carefully in there. I see still no blue. I wait 5 minutes. Yeah, this takes only 5 minutes, while the other coloring a few days. I decide it's ready after 5 minutes. Take the yarn carefully up. Oxygen gets to the yarn. Hocus pocus, it turns blue. Magically turns blue in front of my eyes. It's so much fun. So much fun. You never actually know what you're doing. It's always a surprise. Is it too long in there? Too short? How is it going to be? Too dark or too light? And I can use my dye pot a few times. I make a big recipe. If I put white, I get blue. If I put yellow, I get green. And well, this is from rhubarb root. And this is with indigo, rhubarb root with indigo. If I put pink, I get purple. And well, this is light yellow underneath with from cow parsley, and it gives a turquoise color. It's not yellow enough to be green. It's not white enough to be blue, so it's blue-green. It is so much fun to work with indigo. And then I can use the tie-dye process. You see this striped thing here? It's colored 3 times with knots on it. First yellow, then red, then blue. And I need to wind it sort of up again so it'll be evenly uneven. It's a lot of work. One color left, and that is, well, I am going to show you rhubarb root before the last color. This is a small piece of rhubarb root. I love working with rhubarb. The leaves are big, they're green, they give yellow, they have acids. My neighbors, when they make jam, they bring me the leftover roots, the leaves. Sometimes when I come home, there's a pile of leaves outside. I have no idea who was making rhubarb jam, but I can use the leaves for a beautiful yellow. So this is from the roots. And sometimes when I have groups visit, I do the magic trick. This is acidic. The cleaning ammonia is alkaline. So I do hocus pocus. I take rhubarb root colored yarn, dip it in ammonia, and it comes out red. Hocus pocus instantly changes color. The magic of chemistry, acidic, alkaline. Quite simple. And yeah, this is indigo rhubarb root. Last color is pink. Definitely not from Icelandic nature, but part of our tradition for a few hundred years. It's an insect from Central and South America, cochineal. It's the female insect. It looks like a small peppercorn. I don't know if you can see just one insect there. And it is the female that gives the pink. Of course, it's not the male. The female is bigger than the male. The female attaches itself to the prickly pear cactuses, stays there when it's ready for mating. The male flies around, does his duty, then he dies. Female stays on the cactus, many of them together, so it's easy to harvest them. And they produce this color, and the color is also used as food coloring, E120. So if you go to the food store, see some red food like, well, salami, suspiciously red salami sausages or gummy bears. It's in cosmetics. It's in a lot of stuff, yogurt, strawberry, strawberry jam, to make stuff redder. It is everywhere. We have been eating a lot of bugs, a lot of insects. And here we have, with indigo, the deep purple. I love this one here. Now I am going to walk to the dye pots and show you a little bit in my dye pots. I wish you could smell the smell here. I heated the dye pots earlier today, so yeah, there's quite a good smell here. Here we have onion skin, and this one will give orange. It is not exactly part of our older tradition, but it is part of our tradition today. It is easy to pick, easy to work with. This only takes a few hours to make. It's not like part of the slow process. It doesn't take many days. And it's fun to use with children because they can so easily collect it themselves. And well, I think it's a tradition in every country to color Easter eggs with this, with onion skin, but not in Iceland. It's not a tradition here. And you don't have to wait for spring to pick the onion skin. You just go to the local food store and tidy up around the onions. They actually do that for me in the local food store. Here we have lupin root. I use all parts of the lupin, except actually the flower. This doesn't look good, but this will give a beige and nice, simple color. This is ready. I need to filter this out and put the yarn in. And here we have lupin yellow from the lupin leaves. Sorry, I'm trying to fit this here. Yep, lupin leaves there. It's like spinach soup. And can't get the camera further. That is the madder root with the yarn. The yarn is in here. I like using putting the yarn with the root to get a little striped effect. And here we have the lichen that I'm trying to make striped. This is day 4. It'll probably be there for a few days. There's still a lot of color in there. It's the Viking lichen. And one dye pot here. It is spruce cones. Oh, it doesn't look nice, but it gives a very nice brown color. Yeah, it doesn't look good. Brownish color. Okay, I'm going to turn this back on the desk here. So I think the only thing I forgot to tell you was the wool that I use is, of course, Icelandic wool from Icelandic happy sheep. The amount that comes from each sheep is about this much. This is 1.5 kilo of white wool. This came from my neighbor next door. We all have piece of land here because these are all small farms, and he has a few sheep on his land and he gives me the wool. So this is from a white sheep. It's lamb's wool, that's the softest. So this is how it comes straight from the sheep. And before I would work with it, I would have to sort of tidy it up a little bit, and then I would comb it, like just combing it, yeah. With your comb. And these are like 200 years old combs that I took from my museum. So you comb the wool like this, and then you can put it in this spinning wheel. You see the old Icelandic spinning wheel here. I actually do not do this process. I do it for fun. It's a hobby for me to spin a little bit every year. I buy the wool from the Icelandic wool factory pre-spun. I wouldn't have time to do anything if I was spinning all the yarn myself. Actually, I think I'm probably forgetting something very important to tell you, but so be it. I think that's all. And if you have any questions, all of you 2 or 3 who are out there.
My first question, you mentioned rhubarb root was one of your favorite items to dye with. Is that in fact your favorite plant to use for dyeing?
Oh, no, I say that with all the plants.
Oh, okay.
But well, let's just say I'm very happy with it because you can reuse it almost endlessly for so many shades. You can use it so much. I think I've used the same dye bath now for 3 months.
Oh.
And I'm always getting a just different shade of this color here. So yeah, I just love the variety, the options of colors from it.
So do you have a specific plant that you really like to use or prefer?
No, it's usually each year I have a new favorite, something that I discover or something. I mean, I always love the lichen because it's just so special. I have to go quite far to pick it. And I have to pick it carefully, just a little bit from each rock because it grows so slowly. And it is just so traditional to use. So Icelandic Viking-like. So this is always a good favorite. But like last year, I was using the common lady's mantle, the garden version, a lot. I did not do that when I was in Borgarfjörður because it just doesn't grow so much there. But here people seem to have lost control of it in all the ditches, so I can take as much as I want. So I used a lot of that. It's of course the green leaves for a yellow color. And I also used I think it's called tea-leaved willow. It's a willow species. Because we have a lot of it here, we did not in Borgarfjörður. So finally I can allow myself to do a few dye pots every year. So it's a new favorite each year.
We have a couple of comments and questions. The first one is from Heather. So interesting and so easy to listen to. Another one says, thank you for sharing your passion. I loved every minute. You are awesome. Alfreda says, do you know when the Icelanders started to use indigo?
In the 18th century, probably quite early 18th century.
Okay.
We started importing it, of course. And in the middle of the 18th century, we were actually importing a few hundred kilos per year.
Okay. I think the next two are kind of similar. Anne says, what is the name of the plant from Norway? The one that replaces the Icelandic moss, or was it not one in this?
Well, if you're talking about the Iceland moss here, the lichen that we used to eat, it's not from Norway, that plant. It actually grows in France. It's called Rubia tinctorum. It's a madder. It's called common madder or dyer's madder. It was grown over Europe, and I buy mine through Germany from India.
Okay.
It's for the red color. Yeah.
Okay. I like to try to be your best customer. I love your wonderful dyed wool. I have made 6 wonderful shawls, each in a different mix of colors. I hope to make more. I have greatly enjoyed your talk. Thank you. Becky says, this has been very interesting. Do you grow any plants that you use specifically for your dye pots?
No.
Do you grow them yourself? You just
collect? No. People have a different style of working with the natural color. Some color from everything they can find in the kitchen or the supermarket, or just your own garden. My rule is never to take anything from my own garden, but I can go to other people's gardens or just out into wild nature. I will hopefully get a greenhouse, a big one, where I can grow a little bit. I can experiment with indigo. I can experiment with the madder root. I have the seeds already. But I'm not growing anything now except for my rhubarb. And I don't think I've even used that one for coloring. I brought my special rhubarb species with me from Borgarfjörður, planted it here. And I only use it for cooking. I haven't used it for dyeing. I use from other people's gardens.
And the name of the Icelandic lichen, just Icelandic lichen, is that the term that if we wanted to
Was
look
it
at?
for the red? For the red or for the brown? Well, for the red, it's called Cetraria Icelandica.
Okay.
Iceland, Google Iceland moss, and you will find Cetraria Icelandica. This one is probably Parmelia saxatilis. It's called crottle, stone moss, coloring lichen, but Parmelia sp, and you will find the coloring lichens. There are a few of them actually.
Are a number of these included in your book so that people can find them in those, in the book, the card?
Yes, the lichens are both in this one.
Okay.
And they're not in the card game, and I only managed to fit in 13 species here, so there will be another deck of cards this summer and another next summer.
Okay.
To fit everything from the book.
Here's a comment from Icelandic Roots founder Sunna, who says, "Thank you very much, Doug, Jody, and Gwytherin. This was excellent and so interesting. I cannot wait to visit the studio." Alfreda again says, "Thank you. Your presentation was so interesting. Beth, can we arrange a visit to your farm and studio as individuals instead of a group?"
Yes. Yeah, you can come at any time. Just email me, hespa@hespa.is. And well, I live here, so if I'm home, it's open, but I prefer to know when people are coming. I have opening hours in the summer, but it doesn't matter. If any time is good for you, I'll be here.
Okay, and the address is also available on your website, correct?
Yeah, Facebook and hespa.is.
Okay, I think we put out a newsletter with a blog about this webinar and you, and I believe those addresses were all listed there so that people can find them. Here's another one from Anne. There was one plant whose name sounded like Volt. Can you please clarify the name? Thank you. Was it
Volt? Weite, Volt. It's the one that grows in Europe for blue. Isatis tinctorum or tinctoria. Isatis.
How would you spell the vote word?
I think it's W-O-A-D.
Okay.
There are a few ways of spelling it.
Certainly.
W and then also just the simple V. Weite. I think Viking blue. Google that and you will come up with vote. Yeah.
Anne also says, "Thank you. Your presentation was fabulous. It was so interesting and educational. Your work is amazing." Susan also says, "Thank you so much. You are very interesting and the colors are all beautiful. I hope to be able to visit one day." Is there any plant you don't choose to work with because it's either very difficult or doesn't give you the desired results, or do you have a least favorite plant?
Not a least favorite plant, but there are two species that I'm tempted to use, but one of them is, protected by law because it's not so much of it, so I'm not allowed to take it. And I think the other one is a fern, and that one is also protected by law. Okay. So that of course tempts me, but I am not allowed to do that. And I wish I could use the lichens more, but I'm very, very strict in not using them if they're too, not so much of them. They grow so slowly. Right. But least favorites, no, I can't remember.
That's good. Mm-hmm. And Judith says, "Thank you so much. This was very interesting." So lots of people enjoying your presentation here today.
Yeah, I only see 2 people on the screen, so I actually thought we were just 3.
No, we've got 32 people.
Oh my God, that's great. Oh, it's good that I didn't know that. I would have been so nervous.
Exactly. Does anyone else have any comments or questions at this time? Well, we'll give them just a few seconds while I make a couple of ending comments. I wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much, Gudrun. This was just amazing. Your hobby is unbelievable. The colors just make my heart happy. It's so wonderful to see all the colors. And I'm really glad that you're no longer using urine. I'm not sure I would.
I'm glad too.
If you're using that much urine that's been sitting around for so long.
Bad smell.
And I just wanted to remind people that in our newsletter that we sent out, we've also given the address to your Etsy shop. And I know I purchased one of your books for my daughter's mother-in-law. She's going to be retiring soon, and she, give her an idea of time to smell the roses or some such thing. So it was nice to have it in Icelandic. And the last thing I wanted to say is just bring it back to the idea of Icelandic roots, which is what brings us all together here. When I was doing research on Gudrun, I saw a photo of her with a man that I recognized as one of my relatives. And I went to Icelandic Roots database to try to find out how we were related, and discovered that we were not closely related. And I thought, this can't be right. So through the magic of the genealogists at Icelandic Roots, Gudrun and I have discovered that we are, in fact, 4th cousins. So that was pretty exciting. I have a couple more questions, comments here. This is from Ken. I loved your presentation. I didn't know anything about creating colors before. Thank you so much. Danielle says, I loved your presentation and find it all fascinating. I just ordered from your Etsy shop.
Great. Thank you.
Helpful. Any final remarks that you would like to say, Gudrun?
No, welcome to my studio if you're ever in Iceland, and thank you for inviting me to be with you here. I've so much enjoyed preparing this and talking to you, telling you about this. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we've certainly enjoyed having you, and by all means, just have our minds filled with all of the wonderful information you've shared with us. So I just, in closing, unless we get additional remarks, I just want to remind folks to tune in to Icelandic Roots, check out our calendar of events. There are a number of additional things that are open to members only and to the public. And we encourage everybody, again, to enjoy that delicious yellow split pea and smoked ham soup today in honor of Springadagur. One more day before Lent comes, and they have another special day for that also. Alfreda has a quick question. Would painters dye their paints using the same things that you do?
I have absolutely no idea. I mean, they must have gotten the paint colors from either nature or from minerals.
Right.
But minerals, then you need extreme heat to prepare the color. So that doesn't go, it's not the same as for the plants.
Okay.
So I've just never had time to explore that as well.
Interesting question. Well, thank you again very much. And thank you to Doug, and especially thank you to all of the viewers here today. We wish you all well, and good luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Tak, tak.